Oh yes. Well done yesterday, mate. Well, I've drawn a little bit of a more familiar peg today. I've actually drawn peg 11 at Killer D's. Now, I've been on peg 10, I think, twice in the world pairs, so I am a little bit more familiar with that. I'm pretty sure it's out and out feeder work, which again will suit me. I need a great weight to get myself back in this, you know. This is by no means a flyer peg, but there is a chance of catching a few fish, getting a few bites, and hopefully just trying to catch up. There are 3 days left, and so I've got about a 15-minute drive up to the venue. I think there's a bit of a walk as well, so I'll see you up at the peg. Well, we drew at 9:30 and it's bang on 11 o'clock. I've just got to my peg. This is peg 11 at Killer D's. I've got to admit that wasn't that enjoyable getting to the peg, to be honest, but I'm here now. We've got a bit of a wind on it. We've got an hour and a half to set up, so I'm going to get out there in the water, get a bomb on, and just have a feel for what it's like out there. I have actually fished on peg 10 before, but I have actually fished peg 11 before, so I'm quite familiar with this area, but that's usually in September when it could be a completely different ball game, so I'm going to get set up. Well, it's a very windy Killer D's once again. You can probably hardly hear me. I'm finally set up. 3 rods up, 2 bigger rods for casting longer, and I've also got a shorter rod which I'll tell you about in a moment. Just the usual setup. I've got a bit more corn today. I'm sat further out in the water. Andy Leathers at the next peg. He's sat even further out. That's because he's planning on fishing the pole. I'm on peg 11. Peg 10 isn't in, so it's been peg 2, miss 1, peg 2, miss 1. I'm going to go back to the bank just so you can hear me properly, but everything's set up. So, viewers to the catch fishing channel will probably be familiar with this spot. This is peg 11. I have been on this peg in the world pairs, and peg 10 I have actually been on that peg in the world pairs. I think twice I've won my section, and once I was second in my section, beaten only by, I think it was Mark Pollard down on the jetty in the early numbers. So I'm just going to base everything today based on what I know about the venue from those matches. Now, those matches were in September, but I don't know if there's going to be any difference, but I've nothing else to base it on other than there were a few fish caught here yesterday. I think this peg threw up 8 kilos, the next peg there threw up 11 kilos, and then the next peg I think won the section with about 16 kilos. So there are some fish, or there have been some fish feeding here, so I'm just going to go for it. You know, the position that I'm in, I've got to be absolutely honest with you. You know, this is something that we've talked about before in festival fishing, that, you know, this is day 3 now, so we fished 2 days, and it's quite easy to just kind of just lose your focus on a match like this when you're in the position that I'm in. I've been second in my section both days, you know, but unfortunately there were 3 kilo sections. Both sections were won with 3 kilos. You know, and there were people yesterday putting back 20, 25 and even 30 kilos in one day, you know, and I've got 6 kilo after 2 days. So yesterday, whilst I was second in my section again, I've even dropped about another 10 places. So now I'm something like 54th place, something like that, which is pathetic, isn't it? You know, it's rubbish, but, you know, hopefully that means that those low weight sections are behind us. You know, this is a better faring weight section. You know, even anglers who didn't win anything or do that well were getting 7 and 8 kilos, so we should get a few bites. But obviously I want to get as much weight as I possibly can, and I'm not going to fill it in. I'm not going to go stupid, but I am going to be very confident. I'm going to fish the way that I've fished here before. All right, so I've got 2 rods clipped up at 45 meters, and that is the line where that's in 9 seconds, just over 9 seconds of water, and I'm just going to attack that line. Okay, with plenty of casters, some chopped worm. I'm going to fish some slightly bigger baits, so 4 and 5 maggots, and possibly pieces of worm as well, because that's what I've caught on here before. I'm going to be putting some corn through as well. This is, you know, this is the urn that I remember, the one that you can attack. You know, it's very different from the previous 2 days that we've had here. It's very, very different. All right, so that's going to be my main approach, and the other approach is something that I caught on last time I was here, and that was to catapult small balls of ground bait with casters in. It's about 15 meters, 10 to 15 meters, you know, it won't be that accurate, and then just chuck a bomb over the top of it. And last time I did that, the wind was much stronger than this, and I caught some roach on that, which put an extra few pound in it, or you know, a couple of kilo in the net when it went slow on my long line. So I'm going to be doing that today, and I can do that obviously whilst I'm fishing the long line. It won't interfere with that. All right, I can just keep flicking balls of ground bait on it. And the leathers on my right is going to be fishing with the pole. So if there are fish on that line, that is my way of covering that line. So I can just chuck a little bomb on that. All right, and that is it. I'm going to get wrapped up because that wind is quite chilly. But, you know, this is something that, you know, it's quite easy to get disheartened, you know. This really is, it's been more of a holiday for me. That's why I brought Dad with me. But obviously I still want to catch fish and do well if I can in the competition. It's been a completely different sort of pace, this festival, but there are 3 days left. We're not even halfway yet. So I'm hoping that there are going to be some better pegs for me over the next 3 days. This is a better peg than I've been to before, so it should enable me to catch a bit of a weight. Because if we don't get a weight today, then obviously I'm completely out of it. Thoughts of winning it are out now, really. But obviously you want to try and get in the frame and just finish as high as you possibly can. So that's the aim for today. I'm just going to get my head down and fish very positive, very confident. I've got one rod with a 3 ounce tip in, the other one's got a 4 ounce tip in, and that's what you need when it's like this. All right, you need heavier feeders. It's wild fishing, and to be honest, whenever I've been faced with that on here, on these pegs, I've always caught. So at least I've got the confidence anyway. So I'm going to get a jacket on. I'm going to get out there, and it's going to be difficult recording out there today for you, so there won't be loads of updates, but I will at least be able to capture some of the action if I am catching. So that's it. I'll check in with you at the halfway stage, and fingers crossed there's going to be some big hungry hybrids out there waiting for us, especially on that long line. Andy just hooked a good fish, and it's a trout. He did call it, he knew it was a trout when he hooked it. There we go, look at that. Is it a pike? Little pike, jack pike. Shame they don't count. Not a hybrid, but we're off the mark. That was 4th cast. Perch. Well, we've been fishing 20 minutes. I've had a roach and a perch. Andy on my right's had a roach. He's had 1 bite. I've had 2 bites. We're fearing the worst. It doesn't look good. Yeah. Perch. Well, we're just over 2.5 hours in, and it's been ticking over. Certainly not the day what we expected. We were hoping it was going to be a bit of a red letter day. We were going to be catching lots of fish, but it's not been like that. It's been very, very slow. And he's got a few on my right, but I'm just ticking over on that long line. And he's had one bite on the pole line, a trout. He's had a little pike as well. I haven't been on that bomb line where I'm loose feeding balls of ground bait. Having said that, it's just up to fish now. But we're just ticking over with roach and perch. More like it. Done. Well, that's it. Much tougher than what we expected. Well, that's been much tougher than we expected, and much harder than what we wanted, to be honest. As you saw, it was an incredibly slow start, really slow, and straight away, well, after 20 minutes we kind of feared the worst. We knew it wasn't going to be what we wanted it to be, and it wasn't what we expected from this venue. Andy has fished a lot more often here than I have, and it's just completely switched up. Well, not completely, but it's just switched off from what it was. The worst weight here yesterday was about 8 kilos, and thankfully about halfway through, or just before the middle bit, I managed to put a few fish together, just roach and perch. And then it's gone quiet again, and then I've changed up to a different feeder. I've started feeding more, pushed the peg. That didn't make any difference, but what that did do was put a load of bait out there. I didn't catch on it, but then what I've basically done then is I've just scaled the feeder down in size, and that's made a difference. I've just started putting a few fish in the net, roach and perch, but then I've caught 1 or 2 hybrids as well, which will help boost my weight. Andy's really struggled. He's not had a fish on his pole line. Well, he has. He's had a trout on it. That's the only bite he's had on it. And on his long line, on his feeder line, he's just hardly had any bites all day. So we haven't heard anything about the section. We don't know how the rest of the section's fished, but it's been nice to get a few bites. And you know, unfortunately the fish weren't as big as what I expected either. When I fished here before, a lot of the fish have been good quality hybrids. I have got 1 or 2 hybrids, but you know, the vast majority of them are smaller, roach and perch. So I'm going to start getting some kit packed away, because we've got to walk right the way back through there again. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 trips with my gear back down to peg 3, and it's going a bit dark, so we don't want to get caught by the rain. So I'll put a few fish together, But it'll be interesting to see how the whole of the section's fished. Well, they've weighed much heavier than what I thought, to be honest, almost twice what I thought, surprisingly. 10 kilo 600. That is actually second, it's actually won the section, but it's second on this bank. The only peg that's beat that is peg 1 right at the bottom end that's weighed 16 kilos. So that's very much the scenario that I said this morning, where I was second here to peg 1. I think Polly was down there that day with about a similar weight. So they weighed much better than what I thought. So it's good that I've stuck to what I thought I knew about this peg, or these pegs here, and it's worked again. I haven't caught the bigger fish like I expected. I've had more roach as well today, but it's you know, it's won the section, so there's no point wishing I'd caught a silly weight when perhaps there wasn't a silly weight there. So I've won the section, so that's good. So we're going to get back now. We're going to get some fish and chips on the way home. Hopefully that'll have bumped me up at the leaderboard a little bit, but obviously a lot of that will depend on how the other venues are fished. So we're off some fish and chips. We've got a bit of a trek back to the van and then a drive back into Enniskillen. And once again, we're going to enjoy some food, possibly have a couple of beers, I think, have an early night, and we're ready to rock and roll tomorrow, where once again it's going to be 9:30 draw, and looking forward to the final 2 days of competition.